I did send an email, and the change of date was also, in the town hall bulletin. So should anybody say to you, I showed up Wednesday night, explain to them that, I did send emails and that it was in the town hall bulletin. So we tried to, let as many people know as possible. First of all, if we could stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, a moment of silence. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag, United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. First of all, I hope that everyone did sign in at one of the tables. If you did not, if you would be sure and sign in before you leave this evening, we would appreciate it. I want to go over the rules again. I know it sounds like a broken record, but the same rules do apply. If you have something to say, please come to the podium. Even though you may not agree with what is being said, I hope that you will respect what is being said and listen. Everybody has a right to their opinion and to speak. I was asked, what is a town hall meeting? And my thought is, it's an opportunity for residents to come together and discuss concerns. We share with you what has happened since the last town hall meeting and perhaps the last board meeting. How did it come about? It seemed like nearly everybody I spoke to in Arborwood was upset about something. The rust, the lack of attention that perhaps the board was giving to you about a concern or a work order. So hopefully that will help answer any questions. Gabe, they are tapping in the back.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
How'd you know I could see?
Well, I just had a sneaky feeling. I believe everybody here has been here before, and I do have your email address. Please continue to check your email. I think that you will notice that I don't send things out every day or every other day, and I don't want it to become that. So please continue to check. We also need your help. If you have seasonal neighbors and you have a way of contacting them, whether it be their address up north, an email address, or a telephone number up north for them, please let us know. We want to make sure that they know what is going on, even though they are not here on the property. They can sign up, or anybody can sign up for emails at arborwoodtownhall@mail.com. And you may, from time to time, be getting an email from that address. That is not me, but it is one or a couple of the committee members that are going to monitor this account, and hopefully we'll be able to answer questions or get information. And actually, I know some of you probably aren't going to remember that email address. It was in the town hall bulletin, So you could go back and look at that, or you can always email me and ask me, and I will send it back to you. We are in need of volunteers to help in delivering the town hall bulletins. This is something we think that we'll be doing once a month, perhaps, once every 3 weeks. And like I said, we need help. So if you are able to do a street or two or just your block, if you would send me an email or see me after the meeting, I would appreciate it. Because it's getting a little bit much for just a few of us that are doing it. Okay, now down to the nitty gritty. We believe we do have the board's attention. We believe we're making a difference. I don't know how many of you were at the September board meeting, but it seemed to be much more adult than some of the previous ones. They were a little kinder to each other, which is a positive thing, we think. But unfortunately, they're not responding to us. And the reason I say that is we delivered a packet to them. It, first of all, the front page was we asked a board member and asked the property manager to sign for this packet, just as proof that they received it. It was not acknowledging that they agreed or anything. They both refused to sign for the receipt, but we give them the packet anyway. And what the packet had was the receipt, and it had a cover letter. And I read that cover letter at last month's town hall meeting. And it also, the letter was regarding the rust, painting, and contracts. The petition that was signed by over 140 residents asking the board to put off the painting until they knew that the rust situation was taken care of was ignored. And they say the reason for that is because our cover letter was signed by a resident. Now, their thought on that was the resident is not a homeowner, meaning this person is married to the homeowner, but his name was not or is not on the deed. So,
Sounds like an excuse.
yeah, it does.
So what happens when they get divorced? You don't get nothing?
I can't answer that. That is just what the board told us, that it was not signed by an owner, but the gentleman is a resident. So they have ignored the petition that was signed by over 140 residents. Richard made mention at the board meeting that he would not comment on it other than saying it was not signed by an owner. The petition has been resubmitted. It was given to Crystal last Friday. I don't know, I hope all of you have given your email address to the Arborwood office. If you have not, I recommend you stop in and give your email address to Crystal. And from an email that I received, I don't know if it was yesterday, was it yesterday or was it Friday? Yesterday, okay. It sounds like they have every intention of moving forward with the painting. In the email, it said staging and posting notices will happen by October the 25th. Pressure washing and painting within a few days of that. So it sounds like they have every intention of moving forward. And it's not that we are saying don't paint. We're just asking for a delay so that we know for sure the rust issue is taken care of. We have no proof that it has been taken care of. But that's where we stand on that. The wells have not been tested to make sure that the rust is taken care of. It could return. We hope not. It's harder to deal with because it takes time for the paint to cure. Paint is going to be dry to the touch in a few hours, but it's going to be days before it actually cures. And if the water comes on and there's rust, it, I think, will be a major problem trying to get it off of new paint that has not cured. I am not an authority on paint by any means, nor am I an authority on rust. But I would like to believe that I do have common sense. And common sense tells me we need to be 110% sure that this rust is taken care of.
Do we have rights as homeowners that when they come to start painting our house, we say we do not want you to paint our house it's our home?
You do have that right, but you are also risking that you will not get it painted, period. You can't say, well, I want to be at the end, because they're gonna start with lot numbers.
Well, if we have 140 people on a signature, and 140 people standing together and saying we're not having our houses painted, I think they have a dilemma until they address us.
I would like to think so, but up to this point, they are ignoring us, and
So contractually, they have 280 houses painted. 100 or 140 refuse to have them painted. I would say they have a problem.
I would totally agree with you.
So that's the next step.
So,
Is how much solace is there in this room to move forward and not have work done on your house before it's done, which you think may be an issue.
I would also hope that if, once, say they do continue to go on with painting, I would hope, say after they get the first 10 or 15 done, they'll go back, and if there is rust, I would hope they would stop on their own. But, you know, I am getting pretty close to my wit's end, just because they won't even listen to us. And that is not right.
Instead of bringing them a letter, can't you send them a certified letter? Then somebody's gotta sign for it.
That's true. But,
You should know they got it.
They probably won't even pick it up.
we,
We know they got it.
we know they have, we know they got it. We know that. I mean, it was hand delivered. So it didn't get lost in the mail or anything. But, I'll be interested to see what, if anything, happens at the next board meeting on the 19th of this month. I will not be here, but I hope a lot of you will attend in support of the homeowners. And I would assume at some point, they're gonna have to recognize and acknowledge the fact that this petition was turned in. Yes,
Mel wants to say something.
okay, Mel, what do you wanna say?
Looks like they're gonna paint no matter what, so that the contracts have all been signed, the contract is ready to come over here. So what we have to do, and you can do your own experiment like I do on my house, I clean some rusty areas, and then I look and see over a period of time if the rust comes back. I did that in a couple of spots, and I don't see any rust coming back. And I think if you're at the last meeting, the contractor for the rust company, Florida Water, explained why we were getting rust in the first place. And the problem seems to be, he explained to us, and he had explained to our manager at the time, that if one well goes down, all the wells are interconnected. If one well goes down, then the system doesn't work properly and you'll get some rust. And at the time, he was saying that the well on White Ash had been down for a month. And they were dilly-dallying about getting the thing fixed. So that's why we started getting some more rust again. So now they got a light system on there. That you see a green light, everything is okay. If you don't see the green light, then you need to call and notify somebody at the office. I told them they better shut the other two wells off too, because you're gonna get rust. Now something happened this past week that was an anomaly, I guess, I don't know. The two houses across from me had a problem with the valve, and they got watered for 24 hours, even though they called the emergency number. You too had water for 24 hours?
From Saturday night through Sunday morning?
Yeah, and we noticed they got rust. And I'm wondering, is that an anomaly? Did the watering for that long clean the pipes out or something? We don't know that yet. So, in any case, they're gonna go ahead with it. They think the problem's cured. And they're gonna get, if they think they got a problem now, they're gonna get a real problem if the rust comes back on the new paint.
Mel, I was hoping you would address the issue of them having to accept.
Yes, I'm gonna do that. Yeah, the other thing is, when I was on the board, I noticed that they have a habit of making up their own laws and rules, you know, and they just come out with stuff that's not written anywhere. And I told Crystal that to be careful, because they're gonna tell you things that aren't true, you know. And I got one right here, as far as the petitions go. This is Florida law. This is a statute 720, but you can go online and look at that at any time to check them out. If they give telling you something, just go on, just put 720, search 720, it'll come right up. This is an HOA law in Florida, and the reason they wrote this law in the first place is to keep the board of directors from becoming dictators. And we've seen that here, that they're not listening to anybody they're saying, and the whole thing was not accepting the petition because it was delivered by a guy they said was not a homeowner, is all false. I'll read the statute to you. And by the way, we didn't need to get 141 signatures. If 20% of the total voting interest petition the board to address an item of business, the board shall at its next regular board meeting or at a special meeting of the board, but not later than 60 days after the receipt of the petition, take the petition item up on the agenda. The board shall give all members notice of the meeting in which the petition item shall be addressed in accordance with the 14-day notice requirement pursuant to subparagraph C2. Each member shall have the right to speak for at least 3 minutes on each matter placed on the agenda by the petition, provided that the member signs the sign-up sheet, if one is provided, or submits a written request to speak prior to the meeting, and other than addressing the petition item at the meeting. Now, this is the bad part. The board is not obligated to take any action, any other action requested by the petition itself. So, they can, you have a right to get up, and, so I guess it's a way of forcing, people to get up and convince them that they have to change. So, so that's the bad part of it. That's a Florida law. And so it doesn't say anything in there about who delivers it. The petition is a petition. It's got the names of the homeowners on it, or voting members. Now, a voting member also is a permanent resident living with the homeowner. So it could be, and they're able to vote and then also run for the board of directors. So it's saying that that guy had to be deeded on the deed was also false. It's something they made up, you know. So that's why I've been checking. I check everything they do now, and many of you don't know maybe that the way the rules and regulations, and we have three different documents for our HOA. One is the Declaration of Covenants, then you have the bylaws, and then you have the rules and regulations. And the Declaration of Covenants is the superior document. That overrides the other two. The bylaws are basically deal with the way the HOA has to govern and handle voting and everything. Then the rules and regulations are the least ones. Those are ones that can be made up by the board and voted on by the board themselves without even talking to anybody. So those are the easiest ones to get rid of, and you can get rid of one of those rules or any policies that are by getting just a 10% petition to get rid of a policy or a rule by having a vote of all the interest, all the owners of the association, or the members of the association, I should say. So, and the 720, which is the HOA statute, overrides all those documents. So they have to follow the law. And obviously they're not doing it, and I'm going to bring them to task on that. And maybe we'll get, this has happened so many times in the past. It's happened with the exterior change request you have to put in to when you want to do something around your house. You want to plant a new garden, or put new windows in or whatever. And they had on there that the request, when before I even got on the board of directors, I went up with I wanted to put a different pole light on. And they say, well, you have to put in an exterior change request. I said, okay. So I looked at it, and then I checked it with the Declaration of Covenants, and it didn't match. In other words, the Declaration of Covenants says they have 30 days to approve or disapprove the exterior change request. If they don't do that, then it's automatically approved. But it didn't say that on the exterior change request. It says they'll try to get it done in 30 days. Okay, and so they wouldn't. They didn't want to let me put an electric light out. I found a law that they can't stop you from putting a solar light on. So I bought a solar light. I waited. I put my exterior change request in. I waited 30 days. And the day after that, I walked up into the office and I said, and there was the head of the exterior change committee, there was a board member there, and the manager, Jim. I said, well, I put my new light up. They said, well, you can't do that yet because that exterior change has to be voted on by the board. I says, no, you're wrong, because it's been over 30 days, so therefore it's already approved. He says, well, what are you talking about? And that was the head of the exterior change committee. He didn't even know what was in the Declaration of Covenants, and neither did the manager or the board member. So they just don't know what they're talking about. They'll make things up just to prove you wrong. So just don't always accept what they say. And the other thing is, now is the time to start thinking about, if you're interested, running for the board of directors, because we could certainly use some fresh faces and voices. And so now's the time to start making yourself, if you think you might want to be interested in that, we'd love to have you do that. What you can do is start making yourself familiar with those R documents and the 720 law, so that you'll be able to answer a question really clearly. Okay? Back to Lori.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mel. Thank you.
Okay, the next topic is contracts. We want the contracts to be transparent. That, there was a document also submitted with that cover letter and the petition asking that we get copies of all of the contracts that were awarded in the last 12 months. Well, they threw that out the window too, because it was submitted with the package delivered and signed by a non-owner. We feel that the residents should be eyes and ears for the board as far as contracts go. If you have work being done in your neighborhood and you're, say, a walker, and you see something that's not right, I think it's only common sense that we should report that to the board or to the office. I should say to the office rather than the board. But it seems like they don't want us knowing these things. And we want to make sure that the jobs are being done satisfactorily. When and if we receive copies of these contracts, we will scan them and send them out to you via email so you know what's going on. We also would like to see the contracts posted on the Arborwood website. And last but not least, speaking of contracts, we have people in the community that are experts in certain areas. We would like to see, just for instance, maybe we have a resident who was a concrete contractor. I'm sure that this person could help immensely in looking over a contract for concrete work. But it just doesn't seem like the interest is there for the board to ask for help or say, hey, does anyone have an expertise in such and such? Can you answer a question for us? So we would like to see that also. We also believe that we have the attention of a lot and the management company. A lot has been on the Arborwood property much more since the town hall meetings first started. I believe they're being held more accountable. I also believe Crystal, the new property manager, so far, any dealings I have had with her have been excellent. She is there, willing to listen. She wants to help. And one of her comments to me was, wow, I didn't know how many unhappy residents there were in Arborwood. And I said, yes, there are. And she is trying. But of course, there's only so much she can do. So if you haven't met her, stop in, introduce yourself, say hi. If you have a problem, you know, give her a chance. And she is learning. I mean, you know, not every HOA runs the same, so give her a chance. We believe that the board should function as a business. And we are the customer. We want the board and management to listen to us. I don't believe, nobody's right 100% of the time. Nobody's wrong 100% of the time. But I think what I have come away with from these town hall meetings is a message to the board saying, just listen to us. And one of the examples I know that has frustrated me for a long time is at the end of the board meeting, after the meeting has been adjourned, there is what they call open mic. You can come to the microphone and you can speak for 3 minutes. For instance, say, why are the lights out at the pool? And I know I've asked several questions and get no answer. They just look at you like you're invisible and like they didn't hear a thing you said. It was suggested to them, perhaps, that they don't turn the tape recorder off during open mic, that they leave it on so that they can go back and listen to what was said. And there's nothing wrong if they don't know the answer. But say, I don't know, we'll check on it and get back with you. And actually follow through. That's the biggest thing. Don't just say it and not mean it. Actually do it. Anna from a lot had mentioned to a homeowner that she would like to attend one of our town hall meetings. And this homeowner did contact me. I contacted Anna and asked her if she would like to come. After not hearing from her and, you know, this, that, and the other, I did finally get in touch with her, and she said she was not able to make it. She had appointments. So if she still would like to come in November, we will give her that opportunity. We did invite Crystal, the new property manager, to come, and she declined because she felt like it was a conflict of interest. And I can understand that because she does work under the direction of the board. Although I will say I was disappointed that she didn't come, just to hear what we have to say. But I do understand her reasoning. It is a fine line, and it's some, and there was no intention to attack her in any way. I had told her that we would like to, if she did decide to come, we would like to just welcome her aboard, give her a chance to come up and tell us what she felt like her job was sitting in that office, and that we would supply questions to her ahead of time so she wasn't, you know, put on the spot. And we would have appreciated her being here, but there again, I do understand her line incoming. Next, I am going to turn the microphone over to Gil Efron to talk about the March election and some other items.
Can you hear me? Before I start, I just wanted to do one thing. We have someone that's working day in and day out to get this committee running. And I think she deserves maybe a free trip to Indiana. Certainly around the world. I'm gonna have to get an unlisted phone number pretty soon. It is not too soon to start thinking about the upcoming election. There are 3 seats that will open: Sandy Dolan, Don Kelly, and Fred Stahl. So what we're looking for is to think ahead to that. If we are able to elect 3 people, Sandy is already part of us, but if we are able to elect 3 people that are of a like mind, thinking the way we do about how the board should run, then we have a majority. And that would help us to manage pretty much everything. So the first part, as we've been looking ahead, and Mel mentioned that we need to identify some people, and that's part of it. And if you would like to be considered, we'll get to that as well. But I think the first thing that we need to deal with is something that's called a platform committee. If the Republicans do it, the Democrats can do it, why can't we do it? And the platform committee essentially is looking to express our beliefs and our goals. For example, an item might be, and this is not necessarily what it would be, we pledge to listen to the community. That would be a novelty, wouldn't it? We understand that the board works for the community and is not an oligarchy. We pledge to serve the community. We pledge to operate the board and community as a business and run it in a business-like manner. That is absolutely one of the most important things that we can do, because we see what happens when it isn't run as a business. So what we're looking to do is to put together a platform committee. This would be the first step as we move toward this March election. So if you have an interest in doing this, if you've ever run for president of the United States or something like that, have that kind of experience, we could use it. But it is to seriously dig into what we want in terms of our leaders, our board members that are representing the community. It's a tough job, but I think we need to do it. But I do believe that if we are united and that we're able to campaign with these 3 new candidates, that we have a chance to really make a difference. The second item has to do with something called election integrity, and finding a way to use independent, outside participation in the election process. When the committees first started working together, we came up with a list of 16 items that we considered were grievances, complaints, improprieties. The one that went to the top, I'll read it to you. Failure by the board of directors to utilize an independent and unbiased group of residents or owners to conduct the 2016 election, to verify the validity of ballots, as well as to supervise the counting of ballots, thereby making the election outcome suspect. You know, if I'm running, I get to count my own votes, I think I'm doing pretty good. Now, I was not here for that, but I happen to know someone who was here for that. So I will ask her to come up now. She looks very familiar.
Is she an owner or a resident?
She is the owner, I'm the boss. This is my wife Sandy, was here in the left side.
Hi, I don't like public speaking, so please excuse me if I use notes. It was, though we've owned the house, so I've owned the house about 3 years. It was my first full-time year being here, so I volunteered to count the votes. I thought that would be a good thing to do. Only I was horrified at what actually took place. There were 3 tables in the back. We kind of split amongst the tables, only there were 3 people at one table, about 5 people at another table, and everybody else was at another table. Well, I was one of the 3 people, and we finished rather quickly, and then the 5 people at the table that had 5 people, they finished. The table that had the most people had to recount. They were on their second recount, and then they decided, no, things hadn't been done correctly. And I'm sure that those who were still in this meeting, in this room, were wondering why it was taking so long to count. Well, they were on their 3rd recount, and in comes, I think, 5 gentlemen. I don't think there were any women amongst them, and at least one was a board member. And they stood there and watched the person who was putting the hash marks down under the names of the people who had run. And no, you put that under the wrong place. Move it over here. And I kept hearing that, and I was quite aghast that a board member, a current board member, was influencing, readjusting the count, maybe rightfully so, maybe not, but influencing the count of the vote and where the votes were going under which person. That's what my observation was, and I've been suspect ever since.
Would you, comment on the property manager leaving the room?
I'm sorry, I should have written myself notes because there was so much going on, and I don't remember when he left and when he came back in.
But what did he bring back in the room with him?
And I'm not sure what he brought back into the room.
Provisional books. I don't know what that means.
Okay,
Maybe he needs more books for somebody, so you know, let's go.
I understand he went back out and brought more votes, even though after the meeting had been, the count had been closed, but I don't know.
thank you. The reason I was asking Sandy to elaborate on that was that it is a known fact that the then property manager, Jim Johnson, left the garden room during the counting, went to his office, came back, and he said, oh, I have some provisional votes here. That should have never occurred. Once, in my opinion, once the counters are in that room, nobody leaves until it's final. And no one especially comes in and says, oh, I have some provisional votes here. That is suspect. I will say that there was a recount done, I believe it was the next morning, it may have been a day or 2 later. And it came out the same, but those votes, all the ballots were held in the office. Had people known what was going on as residents, we should have insisted on a recount right then. But that's like hindsight's 2020.
Pardon me, is there a law that would prevent a board member participating in the vote counting?
No.
No,
They're allowed to do that?
it's, there's nothing written anywhere that would prevent them from doing that. It's more of a moral and ethical activity. And we have looked at and considered. Shading. Who did what?
Shady.
Shading.
Shady.
Shading. I understand that. Now I got you. We've talked about several options, and one of them is to try to gain control over the counting process and the election itself. We don't think that the board would necessarily go along with that. So the second alternative would be to see if we could identify and obtain a written process, maybe from one of the other associations, that says here's the process that they use for holding the election, authenticating and validating ballots, and for going through the entire process. If that doesn't happen, we can't find another resource, we can write our own process. It's not complicated. We just have to have the right people knowing that this is their job. Their job is to count. They volunteered to count. They are not associated with the election itself, but they are here to keep everybody honest. It's the right thing to do. So we'll see what happens with that. We'll try in the next town hall bulletin to outline some of this a little bit more, but we need some more input. Now, if the board fights us, here comes the next civil war. We would consider what I call the nuclear option. Nobody likes it when I say that. Essentially, that would be to recall the entire board.
Yeah.
Here?
Yep,
Yeah,
You're in favor of that?
absolutely.
I think we should do it now.
Could I do a straw vote? How many people would think that a recall is an appropriate thing to do? Well, I got 4 so far. Huh? Yeah, it's hard, it really is hard to know
Would you
without all
have
the
to have
information.
somebody ready to take their place?
Right. The process to recall the board is not something that we do. It comes from section 720 of the Florida statutes. And they have a process, a written process. And my note to myself is, apparently, we're not the only homeowners association that has this kind of a problem. I don't know how many times it's been used, but the process, I've read through it several times, I've looked at it. I'm not an attorney, fortunately. So anyway, that's where we are. We've got a lot of things to think about. And one last point. In the next bulletin, we'll try to outline what a timeline would be in terms of identifying candidates, letting our group here get acquainted with them, and then putting together the process. So I'm going to turn this back to Lori now. In a moment. Planning the trip to Indiana.
Gil, can I say one thing?
Sure.
Has everybody seen this town hall bulletin? I think it's a masterpiece. Thank you for all your hard work on
They
it.
said it's going to be in the Boston Fine Arts Museum.
Changes and maintenance will get paid for the bills, she could explain it.
Okay, thank you, Gil. I lost my train of thought.
Okay, I'll get it. Want me to get up and do it for her? So I take a minute.
Okay, very quickly.
Okay.
Yeah, Muriel said that she doesn't have reading glasses, so I'm doing this for her. But there's been changes on the maintenance at the pool, in case anybody doesn't know that. They've decided that the beautification committee has been doing such a fantastic job with all the beautiful flowers and shrubs around the neighborhood, that they would be the best ones to do the maintenance at the pool. And so, Muriel, of course, is the head of the beautification committee, and Sandy Dolan, as a board member, also she's in charge of the beautification committee. And so that's effective already. The person that used to do the restrooms and stuff has been let go. And the maintenance committee does all the stuff. We have volunteers, if anybody's interested in volunteering for the beautification committee, but just let Muriel know. And the person put in charge of the pool was George Smith, one of the board members. And right away, he just took it upon himself to get rid of the music and then put signs up, no smoking. Now, I don't smoke myself. I don't like to sit next to smokers or anything else. But you have to realize that they also pay the fees. And so we suggested that there be a designated smoking area at the pool, and that should come up at the next board meeting. So at least they would have a place to smoke. Since they're paying fees too for the pool, they should have a right to have a designated smoking area. I don't really think we need that because it's out in the open air, and unless you're sitting face to face with a smoker, then it shouldn't bother you out in the open air. Anyway, the board so far has ignored Sandy's request. At the last meeting, she recommended they put a designated smoking area. And she made a motion to do that, and the 4 men on the board were silent. They would not second the thing. So but I think they're getting reasonable because they're getting complaints, and they'll get a lot more complaints when another 40% of the owners show up from Canada. And anyway, we hope we give that a try, and the pool is starting to look better. I've been volunteering a little bit myself because Sandy's been away for a couple of weeks. I've been taking her place. But Muriel doing a great job. She's got the back room cleaned up. She's got the restrooms on a schedule of cleaning and everything else. So that's great. Doing a great job.
Yes, she certainly is. And I would like to comment that we had asked, I don't know, several times during the summer that the pool furniture be cleaned. It was filthy. The pool furniture is now clean. It looks good. There are some that are stained that are not going to come clean, but there was Pine Sol used on the tops and the bottoms of every chair up there.
And Lori did it.
She did.
Well, I did part of it. I certainly did not do all of it, but it does. It looks much, much better. And I think we can thank this committee for that. Otherwise, I don't think it was gonna happen. And I feel like I personally would go up there and sit on those chairs now without a towel. Before, I wouldn't have, but anyway. So that's something that we're seeing improvement in. I'd like to open the floor to any questions or comments. Does anybody have anything they would like to discuss? Yes, Carol?
I just want to know why they took the music down. It was relaxing, everybody enjoyed it, it wasn't blaring loudly to annoy anybody.
The statement I got was George is in charge of the pool.
It's killing TV program.
Well, we don't know that the TV broke. Well, but there were problems with the cable up there. I mean, did Bright House ever come out?
Yeah.
And so we do know for a fact the TV was broken.
No.
No. Okay.
White House came out and fixed it because the squirrels had.
Oh, no, I mean this last time before it was taken down.
Oh, no, I don't know.
Yeah.
They took it down for the.
But that was a decision, I guess, made by George
Yes.
on our behalf.
So bring your boombox.
Good idea.
We're gonna have a boombox party sometime. Turn to the same radio.
Yes, Arlene.
I don't know, I don't very hard to go, so I didn't hear them, say, oh, God's there, like, they didn't have any music. But I'm wondering about, is it loud, like, there are houses that are close to the pool. I know if I was in one of those houses and that music would be playing, you would play that.
Nobody complained.
No.
Well, not that we know of, but if they had complained, I feel that we should have been told that, hey, folks, we're sorry, but the reason that the music and the TV were removed was because we had neighbors complaining. But when I asked, the answer I got was George is in charge of the pool.
You guys decided.
George is in charge of the pool.
Hey, Lori,
Yes.
I live right next door to the pool. I never, ever had a problem with the volume of the music. Never.
Call George and ask him. Yeah.
You use a CD player?
Oh yeah, we could, but you have to bring your own CDs and all. But we were able to play music through the TV, which made it quite nice.
And it was easy listening, because it
Yes.
wasn't anything.
No. Oh, yes, Sam.
One of the things I've heard at the pool is that the humidity got to the pool.
That's possible.
It's possible.
Nobody watched the TV, and just put a little TV up there that you buy,
Yeah,
secondhand or something. That was a donation by Joni, by the way, the big TV.
yes, I mean, that is truly,
So all
I
we
mean,
needed
it
was a
is
TV,
possible
some kind
that
of
it
TV
was
there to
broke,
do it.
but I think we deserve the answer.
Communication.
Yes, yes. Okay, anything else, anybody? Yes, Rose?
Just a quick question. How come there are only 3 board member seats coming up in March?
Because it's on a rotating basis. 3 are elected, 1 year, the following year, 2 are elected. That way you don't have a complete new board.
Got it.
All at one time.
Okay, thank you.
Maybe that's what we need.
Right?
Well, I will say, we need your continued support. We need your neighbors' support. So if you are talking to your neighbor and you don't see them here at this meeting, reach out to them and say, hey, have you heard about the town hall meetings? Invite them to come. I hope they're not boring enough that they put you to sleep. But, and I think everybody, I think we're in a learning process. Just for instance, Rose's question. Why only 3 people up for election? You know, we learn from these things.
There hasn't been one meeting that I haven't learned something new and valuable at.
Good, good. I'm glad to hear that. Glad to hear it. The other thing, I do want to reiterate, we need volunteers to help deliver the town hall bulletins. We also need volunteers to be on the, what committee was that, Gil? Platform committee. And we would certainly appreciate your help. If you're not not able to help, I'm looking at someone and they're just kind of looking away. If you're not able to help, maybe you could give a suggestion of somebody that might be able to.
He's not here.
Sure, if you are interested in helping or serving on the platform committee or helping deliver the town hall bulletins, sign the pad and just put deliver or platform committee. So that's a great idea. Yes, Marilyn?
I've had some experience with parliamentary procedure. I've forgotten all of it. But there is specific rules for elections. And you might look into that.
That's on our agenda. We're gonna try to reach out to some other HOAs and see if they have any written, directions that,
720 has some rules for elections, but they don't have the procedures set up. That's the problem. I looked all through that. So they do have rules on who can run and all that, but I looked at the procedures and there's none. So, but you're right, there are probably some parliamentary rules, Robert's rules.
Marilyn, do you do any type of research on the computer? Okay, would you be willing to do some research on that and see what you come up with?
The election.
Yeah.
The election rule, parliamentary procedure for election, would you be willing to do? It would be a homeowners association. Would you be willing to do that for us? Thank you, we appreciate it. Our next town hall meeting will be back to Wednesday. And it will be on November the 8th at 6 p.m. right here in the auditorium. It will also be in the town hall bulletin. We're hoping to have it out by the end of October, 1st of November. I also will send out an email reminder. And I want to say, if at any time you decide you don't want to get an email or be on my email list or be on this town hall, Arborwood Town Hall list, feel free to let us know. I mean, we're not going to be upset about it, but I guarantee you, you're not going to get an email from us every day or even every week. But you have that option to opt out of that. The next Arborwood board meeting is Thursday, October 19th at 9:30 here in the auditorium. I would urge you to attend. And you don't necessarily have to stand up and say anything, but just your presence being here to let this board know that, we're hoping that you're gonna start listening to us. We're not happy with responses that you are or are not giving us. And I do think that they are feeling some pressure, and I think we're getting some things done. Especially, and I will stand up here all day and half the night in saying that we are claiming that we had something to do with Jim Johnson's dismissal. There's nobody on that board that would ever admit it, I'm sure, and that's fine. They don't have to. But that is a step in the right direction. Okay, if you don't have anything else.
How much does it cost to get off of the distribution, the email distribution?
For you, it's quite costly. Yes, Mel?
Yeah, I'd like to make the motion that the December meeting, we all bring a dish and do BYOB. Before Christmas,
I love the idea, but I'm not so sure that I'd be able to make sense standing up there what I might have to say.
well, you won't have.
And I don't want to be exempt from,
You don't have to make sense, you know.
Nobody will know.
oh, well, I guess that's true. Yeah. So, okay, Wednesday, November the 8th at 6 p.m. Here in the auditorium is the next town hall. Next Harborwood meeting is Thursday, October 19th at 9:30. And if we could please have your help in putting the chairs back around the tables, it would be greatly appreciated. Thank you.